Deep breaths. I promise. It's August. I promise. We're okay. You can take about 3 deep breaths while the intro runs. Jason Aponte, New Sprint Right Option Podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go, Niners.
Let's go, Niners. Sprint Right Option Podcast. Oh, man. What a preseason football game that was. Emphasis on preseason. My name is Andrew Pasquini. Joined, as always, by the beautiful, beautiful Jason Aponte. Jason Aponte, I already asked how your day was going earlier today, but, I mean, dare I say, did the 3 hours of 49er football make your day any better or worse?
I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
I can't speak for other people. I'm having the time of my life, but yeah, not the best performance again.
No.
Don't overreact to anything, even though I know why most of you guys are here. I promise you that I have things that will be said about something that you think I'm going to be off the rails on that are going to be funny, but and very level-headed. So yeah, nothing to overreact to. I think in the beginning, the offensive line struggled to find its footing. But again, what I said was, backup offensive linemen. I literally said this in the pregame right before. Backup offensive linemen, the drop-off between starters and backups is just what you saw. And so many people are like, well, I want to see Jason Poe, and I want to see this guy. There's a reason you're not seeing them. There's a reason you're not seeing them. They're backups. There's usually not good things when backup linemen have to come in. Having said that, Trey had some opportunities to really get the ball out. Didn't look too comfortable in the beginning, but when he got some time, he looked a little bit better. Not really too much to take away from other than that. I mean, dare I say Sam Darnold actually looked pretty good? I don't know. Like I just don't know, man. There's nothing there that is conclusive one way or another to anything else for you to overreact to, other than just taking this as a piece of information going forward with evaluating the players.
Yeah, we're going to say a lot of things this podcast over this next hour or so. So we appreciate each and every one of you who are here right now. Already got 64 in. We just started. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. As always, we're going to go position by position, but first let's just get it out of the way. We haven't said the score yet. We're 3 minutes into this podcast. The 49ers lose a preseason game to the Las Vegas Raiders, 34-7. Kind of like, whose line is it anyways? What is it? There are no rules and the points don't matter. That's kind of what preseason football is. A lot of things to talk about, more bad than good. I don't think you're going to get any rash decisions on this podcast. I might have a couple, not regarding the quarterback position, but it's really the first preseason game. Niners did not look good. The Raider, Greg Papa, Tim Ryan, they were talking about. By the way, it was electric here in the first. Tim Ryan, how about it at the very top of the show? That was fun.
This is going to make everybody mad. I was so happy that I could only access the Raiders broadcast.
Yeah, I have the live stream. I didn't get NFL Network, so I had the K-Pix, the CBS stream out of here. And it was very bad. It kept breaking up. The audio didn't work the first few minutes of the stream broadcast, all that stuff. So anyways, Niners lose 34-7. As always, Jason Aponte. And if you're new here, as I said earlier, Sprint Right Option Podcast, we go position by position, not chronologically. As always, we start with the quarterbacks. And Jason, before the podcast, we talked how it's the preseason. Go off based on what you see, not necessarily the stats. If you look at Trey Lance stats, 10 for 15, 112 yards, a touchdown.
You gotta be kidding me. You have
Jets gang is here already.
All right, so hold on. Let's get it started. So Sam's pocket was better because he can read the defense and get the ball out. Read that again. Read it 2 times. Read it a 3rd time. And then after you read it the 4th time, say to yourself, I don't know ball. Are you insane? Sam's pocket was better because he could. So Sam. All right, man. You know what? Let me just take this because we got. We're
gonna take Christian. We love Christian here. Thanks for donation.
Christian,
season is over. Fire the head coach. Sell the team. Let's sell the team. Jake Moody looks soft. Trey Lance looks like he's only playing his first game in a year. O-line looks straight garbage. Look like backup. Super Bowl window is closed. Hashtag sarcasm. Thank you very much for the donation.
Thank you for the donation, buddy. But yeah, I mean, look, we're all starved to talk about football. We're all
Yeah.
starved to talk about this team and everything.
Yep.
But yeah, come on, guys. Like, I know what you're gonna ask me about. I'm sure we'll get to it.
We're gonna get to it. We
I
got to
don't
go
wanna
through the
But
position.
you know what? Maybe we should just like not bury the lead because people are just here to hear that and they might just dip.
Yeah.
Like if they
Well,
don't.
that's why we got to save it till the end. Make them
No. They're not gonna stay that long. They just want to know right away. They want to know right away.
Okay, Jason. So preseason week 1. Let's start special teams. Actually, we're gonna start with the special teams. Really, the big one. Jake Moody. And honestly, like I was gonna save this for last because special teams as a whole was bad. Okay, there was a lot of penalties, but everybody wants to hear the Jake Moody thing, so we'll go up top. We'll start with Jake Moody. Missed field goal from 40, hooked it left. Missed field goal from 57, hooked it right. I said some things maybe 3.5 hours ago regarding the kicking position. We'll see. But it did not look good. And Jason, people want you to overreact, so let's overreact.
No, look, let's
I can overreact, guys.
Look, I think Deshaun Jameson looks like the better punt returner. I think if there was anybody that was on the special teams, it's not Ronnie Bell, who had a very good game aside from that drop off his chest. I think it's Deshaun Jameson, who I said earlier, I believe was going to be the front runner for this. He has such a better track record as a returner. Deshaun Jameson looked good on special teams.
Yep.
Mr. Snowski looks fine. I know you guys want me to like go crazy or whatever. I'll admit I've been having fun on Twitter. I've been having a lot of fun, like, making jokes and stuff like that. But still, man, it is preseason. If he goes ahead and he just like nails every other kick the rest of the year, who cares? I'll only start to get mad if these kicks pile up like during the season. At this point, I'm just having fun. If you came here, unfortunately, for me to lose it about Jake Moody, I hate to disappoint you. It would be hypocritical of me to dismiss so much of what happened in this game than to just immediately throw it on Jake Moody. What I will not back off of is this. The 49ers had a chance to draft actual football players, and the idea of a franchise kicker is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Nobody's ever done anything like that. You had a chance to bring a football player onto your team that can play many snaps and isn't just there when you maybe need him. That's what I will never let go. Regardless of that, I hope Jake Moody makes every single kick because I want this team to win. And if you expect me to lose it because Jake Moody missed 2 kicks in preseason, I don't care. But it is funny. And you know what I'm going to fucking do? I'm going to get these jokes off. I am going to get these jokes off every single time. If you don't know me, now you do. I'm going to get these jokes off regardless, not panicking. But if it starts to happen in the season, I will definitely cook. At the same time, I am not backing off of my stance that it is poor. We're going to go right back to quarterback. Poor process to draft a kicker at 99 when you could have had an offensive lineman, you could have had a cornerback, you could have had actual football players. That's your poor process. But shout out to you, Jake Moody. I hope you make every single kick. We got one more. Let me see. We got one more. Ryan Reed says, I think Trey had an up and down game. There was some good, some bad. Why are we incapable of evaluating him with context? Why is everyone so hard on him? This is where we go back to quarterback now.
No, and we talked about it a little bit. 10 for 15, 112, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, sacked 4 times. There was some good. He had a couple plays where he did have a clean pocket, and he definitely had that poise. He looked a lot more comfortable on the move. It's almost trusting him to make more athletic plays. He looks more comfortable. He looked very timid. And that's the word I think the group chat used a lot. I think that's the word I saw a lot on Twitter. Whether you want to say it was the offensive line, you absolutely can. They allowed 4 sacks. 1 was his fault for sure. Nick Zackel didn't have a very good game, but we're going to talk about that in the offensive line section.
Christian said we could have drafted a kicker at 87. If I would have just flipped the tape.
Yeah, that would have been fair. But he did look timid in some moments where he did have a clean pocket.
He did. Or he had a lane to throw the ball in. Like, there's going to be pressure regardless, even if your first team is on there, right? But if you have the throw there, you got to get it out. And I think that it's fair to say that the backups did not protect for him, but it's also fair to say that there were times where Lance wasn't going through his process properly. And the best example, Andrew Pasquini, Lance's only touchdown throw. And what did we literally talk about earlier? Literally, process over results. Your process was poor, but it ended up as a touchdown, and it goes in the book as a touchdown. You can do everything right, like Brandon Allen putting the ball on Ronnie Bell's chest and having an interception, and you can literally do everything wrong and have it end up as a touchdown, which is why stats ultimately do not tell the story of the eyes and the process.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about it because that's the one interception that or the one would-be interception that gets the attention because of the touchdown. But he had a second one on, I believe, the very next drive, if I remember correctly, where it was just one of those dare we keep it around, even though Jimmy Garoppolo was on the other sideline. One of those oh no throws where he just didn't see the underneath guy drops it. So Lance, lucky to have the one touchdown. He should have had 2 interceptions, but hey, stat line is what stat line is. Just too timid for me. That's all. He, as I said, he looked very comfortable when he was asked to move the pocket around, and that's good and all. To me, more bad than good in game 1 of this preseason. The one sack that he himself, I 100% his fault. Just kind of holding the ball too late. We could talk about whether the would-be interception in the end zone was a late pass too, because Chris Conley looked like he got to the spot. Whether the throw or not was perfect.
I'm streaming.
Jason Aponte's got a phone call, but that's okay. Hello. But yeah, just good and bad with Trey Lance. I would personally say more bad than good Jason Aponte.
Yep, I heard everything that you said. I 100% agree.
I mean, you have the exact same thoughts I have.
Look. In the second quarter, they made some adjustments. They changed some people around. Jason Pope wasn't particularly good today, which is why, as many people as what they want to see him for, he's a little small. That's always kind of been the idea. Jason Pope wasn't too good. Zakelj got pushed around. This is why they're backups, right? And that is why this isn't the only real. All right, so I wouldn't even say this is a overreaction or anything. The only real reaction you can have is NFL teams, when they have to depend on backup offensive linemen, it doesn't go well.
No.
And it won't go well for the 49ers, the Chiefs. The Chiefs literally lost the Super Bowl because they had to start their entire backup offensive line, and they couldn't get it done. It will not be good for anyone. Anybody who tells you that they have a good backup on their offensive line is either naive or lying. You don't. There are no good backup offensive linemen. The drop-off from your starter to your backup is considerable. So that's the part that I don't understand. The line got pushed around. None of those guys will be playing on Sunday, God help us. Not Pryor, not Feliciano, not Zakelj, not Jason Pope. None of them. So I'm fine. What I learned today is backup linemen are backups for a reason, because they're not that good, and they should only be used sparingly. That's the problem. Okay, how does that trickle down to the quarterback? Trey Lance, again, didn't have time early on. Was very bad. Definitely had a throw on the second sack in the first drive that he could have banged on somebody, but he didn't get the ball out. Part of his development. At this point, there's not really much to take away from, because there's always going to be an excuse with Trey or anybody, right? If Trey would have hooped, people would have been like, well, it's against their backups. But Trey looks bad, and now it's, oh my God, the world is over. Like, if you think he looked bad, right? It's this weird thing where if you're not on the side of the quarterback, then you're always going to find a way to blame the quarterback. But if you like the quarterback, let's say that had been Purdy and he was getting sacked a bunch of times behind the second O-line, which I don't know why they would do that. You don't want to hurt your starter. You kind of would have just been like, well, it was the O-line. Wait till he plays with the ones. Maybe I'd like to see Trey Lance run behind some ones real quick and get a little bit more time, because when he did get a clean pocket, he actually threw a really nice dart to Conley over the middle. That was a really beautiful throw on third down. None of this that is going on with the discourse around the quarterback is sane. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Because if Trey hoops in practice, it's just practice. Trey looks bad in practice, look how bad he looks in practice. Purdy looks bad in practice, it's just practice. Well, if Purdy looks good in practice, see, he's the quarterback one. Like, everything has to do with, your perspective, your narrative. I think again, there is no more room, and I feel like objectivity has been completely lost in this entire discussion. Like, if we get to the end of preseason and Trey Lance continues to stack these performances like this today, I think we're all gonna have to look at each other and say, "Hey, man, I don't think that this is going to be a good thing," and that's fine. That's fine, right?
Mhm.
But the wanting, the needing to be right as opposed to getting
Yeah.
it right is what is literally destroying the discourse surrounding the evaluation of any of these quarterbacks.
Yep. I couldn't say it better myself, and we're just gonna there's the Trey Lance talk right there. Sam Darnold came up, followed Trey Lance, 5 for 8, 84 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, just to compare the two, because that's what this is at this point. One quarterback looked more confident than the other, standing up in the pocket, kind of had more poise, dare I say, and that was definitely Sam Darnold. Only had 8 attempts, only got 1 quarter. I don't know. I do know that this game doesn't change what I think the depth chart should be, because the depth chart is what it is now. I think Trey Lance is going to start next week against Denver again. Maybe a smaller role. Maybe Darnold gets a couple quarters next time. I don't know. I don't think this should really change the depth chart. Now, as Jason said, if this happens again where Trey Lance doesn't look as good, Sam Darnold comes in and looks fine, conversation can be had. But for now, this is one preseason game. Jan, so does playing like garbage in preseason matter? Dude was JG 2.0 in the pocket under pressure. How many years has he been in the Kyle Shanahan system? Yeah, no, and sure. But it's preseason 1. It's his first game action since breaking the ankle last year. I understand that people want the reaction right away, but it's preseason game 1, and it is what it is. It's spoiler. It's very hard to play quarterback in the NFL when there's pressure in your face the whole time. It's not very easy. And so if we want to judge Lance off that, sure, but I don't think that's very genuine to judge him based off this.
Unfortunately, and this is the part that is probably going to be the most frustrating with Trey Lance's evaluation, is his entire 49ers career is possibly about to be judged on a training camp, 4 starts, and this preseason. And I don't think that any of that is fair.
No.
Having said he only gets a certain amount of opportunities. So whenever he steps on that field, he has to show out in any way that he can.
Mm-hmm.
So to Jan's point, does playing like garbage in preseason matter? It matters to Trey Lance when you don't have the record of games to fall back on,
mm-hmm.
where you can say, this is fine. We have a track record of him doing this. Unfortunately, the way that he will be evaluated is that one training camp, those 4 games or 5 games that he started, and probably this preseason, and he may not get another chance. And I think that's super unfair, but it's the reality of the situation because of the situation at the quarterback position.
And I know I hear the Trey Lance people, handshaking, saying, "Hey, why is he being judged on 4 and being thrown away when Purdy is 7 games and he's already decided?" And it's just the reality of the situation, and that's just what it is, right? Yeah, Trey Lance had 4 games. It just happened that Brock Purdy's 7 games came in the months of November and December, and he got the leash, and he's taken what he's taken. So I'm not going to trash Lance on this start. It's 1 game, but let's see what next week looks like, Jason. I think we're good on quarterbacks. Brandon Allen, 5 for 8, 36 yards, 1 interception. Same sort of thing, though. The interception hits Ronnie Bell right in the hands. Ball pops up, and that's that, intercepted. Running backs, rushing attempts, Jason Aponte. Team total 23 carries for 69 yards. The longest run was 15 yards on a Ronnie Bell end around. TDP 9 carries for 29 yards. Jordan Mason 5 carries for 17 yards. Jan, thank you again for the donation. I think going 8-0 as a rookie is harder. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not wrong on 100%. That. And 8-0 is very difficult.
And that's why Brock is deserved and should be quarterback 1, like 100%. Regardless of whether that continues or not, it's hard to argue against that. So I mean, I again, like, I'm taking my personal feelings out of all this. Like, I feel like this is Trey Lance's only opportunities are going to be training camp, those few games, and this preseason. While that's unfair, it really is the reality of the situation. The other reality is that wouldn't be a reality if Brock Purdy didn't show so much when he played. That would not be the reality of it. If Brock Purdy went 4-4, we're talking about a whole different thing. But he didn't. And that's why we're in the situation that we are. Again, taking my feelings completely out of it. I know you guys are here for me to yell and be spicy and all that. Trying to turn over a new leaf and be a little bit more level-headed. Or, I'm going to let it fly when I feel like I need to let it fly. Right now, I don't really think that it's time to let it fly because the reality of the situation supersedes any personal feelings I have towards the situation.
Perfectly said. New guy, Jeremy McNichols, had 4 carries for 7 yards at the very end.
Should have been Duke Johnson.
Should have been Duke Johnson. 4 carries for 7 yards with a long of 8 yards kind of tells you. Tyler, Jason Andrews, so if Brock played like this week 1 against the Steelers, what do we think?
I think he comes right back out in week 2. And I wouldn't press against that. Tyler, when you look at how this team performs every week 1, nobody's come out during Kyle Shanahan's time and lit it up. Nobody. And I understand the names and everything. Nobody has. And of course, there's circumstances. Trey Lance played in a monsoon. Brian Hoyer was the starter one of those years, right? Jimmy gets in. Jimmy, what was it? Week 1 in Minnesota didn't look great. Yeah. The team always kind of comes out slow regardless. So I'm still not overreacting to that either when you have such a long sample size of not only the quarterback and the team just coming out and struggling.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's
and look,
1 week's not going to change. The most dominant week 1 of this.
The Lions game, they almost lost. They almost lost. They almost lost that game for whatever reason. And I'm going to go right back to the well because I did it last season before week 1. I'm going to go right back to the well. I wrote a long article on Niners Nation detailing every single week 1 that Kyle Shanahan has had, whether he was an offensive coordinator, ball boy, whatever, head coach, anything. And every single one of those teams offensively either got off to a slow start production-wise, or they were penalties all over the place, just sloppy play. So for me, Tyler, and going back to your point, if Brock plays like that in week 1, it feels par for the course with the way the 49ers have played football during Kyle Shanahan's time.
Mm-hmm. The running backs, we're going to the running backs now. Once again, not a great game. Jordan Mason had a drop. Not much here for me. I guess this would once again fall under the Gammon, thank you very much. Props to you sharing that show. I got to get to high school. I got a pair of nuts. Yeah, it's alumni baseball. Who cares, man?
It's soft pitch?
No.
Oh,
baseball.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, listen. Hitting a baseball's hard. Ask the New York Yankees.
Joey Votto had a tweet where he's like, "Oh, how many hits do you think you could get with 600 at bats against the major league?" And I said 0, and then posted a video of me striking out against a high school kid.
Absolutely 0.
Yeah, nothing against the running backs here. I feel like this is another offensive line conversation. We'll get to that. Jordan Mason having a drop probably doesn't help, but kind of like Trey Lance, I'm not going to fully judge until it's behind the starting offensive line, but not the most exciting kickoff to what should be a pretty interesting position battle.
Speak for yourself. I was enthralled.
Okay.
I was entertained. The overreactions, I'm living for it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe it was because we didn't go so hard in the summer. Maybe it's because I went out there and there was a bunch of grass that needed to be touched.
Dare I say we touched grass? I
touched some grass. Touched some grass this summer. Traveled around, moved around.
I went to the Philippines and touched grass, my guy.
Yeah, I went to Miami 2 times. Like I acting up, like
those thighs,
Hey man, they got to get some air. I don't know, man. I think, and you know what? Let me explain it another way. More to the point about week 1 and the way the 49ers come out. The 49ers, aside from 2019 under Kyle Shanahan, have almost started slow almost every single year.
Yeah.
Many weeks, 3-4 weeks. We've gone into 5-6 weeks where we're like, when is this team going to kick it up? Now, that's not an optimal approach because you don't want to have to win a bunch of games going down or whatever down the stretch. Mm-hmm. But I do think that for a team that we've stuck behind where they were 1-3 or 2-2 and just like, and they've lost a miserable game that they shouldn't have lost. for us to automatically go nuts after this week 1 preseason game in which none of the starters played, it just seems weird a little bit. That's it. Like, look, again, guys, I'm not telling you how to fan. If you're concerned about something, your concerns are valid. If you're concerned about the depth behind the offensive line, shit, I am too. And just about every single team in the NFL is concerned about that. Are you concerned about the cornerback depth? Dare I say that we have somebody really nice to talk about that I was worried about? Ambry Thomas played a hell of a ball game, if you ask me. But for a team that historically starts out the way that they do, never plays anybody in preseason, the week 1 overreactions have been a little bit funny to see so far.
Perfectly said. And yeah, it's August. Like, not even just preseason week 1. It's August, man. Like these football games don't mean anything. As we said, if it becomes a trend, then it's an issue. But this is one game. This is a one-off. If this is I mean, dare I say, if this is week 8 in the middle of a Niners good stretch, it's a one-off. Nothing you could really do. Jason, you want to talk about the receivers a little bit?
Sure.
Chris Conley had a pretty good game. 3 receptions for 47 yards. Really felt like he was getting majority of the targets in the first half.
Who's that?
Chris Conley. It's the guy Jason Aponte has been talking about a little bit.
Okay.
Ronnie Bell, also 3 receptions, 58 yards, targeted 6 times. He had the drop that led to Brandon Allen's lone interception. Trufa Magali, I guess we'll include tight ends in this conversation. I have a conversation to have about one tight end, though, that I will have my one overreaction.
He's in his head.
I get one overreaction this episode, and I'm going to burn it on my
now.
tight end.
It's up here now.
Fumagalli, 2 receptions for 30 yards. Rush Raleigh, 3 for 18. Isaiah Winstead, 2 for 22. Tay Martin, 2 for 15. Willie Snead, 1 for 12. There you go, 1 for 5. Charlie Warner. And then Cameron Latu, who I will talk about here in a minute, 1 for 9 with a fumble on that one. So, Jason, Chris Conley really felt like he was the guy. It seems like he's going to get his he seems to be the leader in the clubhouse, at least. I know Ronnie Bell got more targets and Ronnie Bell got more run, but Chris Conley getting majority of the targets in the first half kind of felt like a good sign. Gammon, thank you for the donation. I feel like you're talking with Febreze. Let that stank out. We lost to Texans last year in the preseason. We are done. Our duck is cooked.
I mean, that's what they came here for, right? That's what you want to hear, right? I mean, just again, I've seen this team. I've seen it too much from this team for them to start out the way that they have and be able to make a run. And then sure enough, we'll be at week 17. Nobody wants to play the San Francisco 49ers. They're clicking on all cylinders. We've seen it too much. And is that a good process? No, but I am right now leaning on history on my side and how loaded this roster is at this point. But yeah, as far as the receivers go, Conley, for sure. Ronnie Bell is really, really making a case, and he had the nicest catch-up today and the nicest throw from Sam Darnold, by the way. That was an absolute dot. Like, that was an absolute dot. But Ronnie Bell's a hooper, man. And, again, I don't think they're going to let Ronnie Bell go. I'm going to stick with my contention that the void that Jawan Jennings will leave when he signs somewhere else will be filled by Ronnie Bell. And I think Ronnie Bell is going to be that type of guy, nasty over the middle, third down guy. But him getting a little bit vertical, that was a really, really good thing. So I thought that was cool as well, too. Ronnie Bell and Chris Conley are the ones that stood out to me. Everybody else is just right now, you're either fighting for a spot where you can be a special teamer or you're just not going to make this team. But I stand by my contention that Jameson is a better returner than Bell. Jameson literally had a good return on every single run, but it was called back on a penalty every single time. Deshaun Jameson, I think, is the one who really worked himself onto this 53 with his return skills.
You know who one of those players was that got called for a penalty on one of those long returns?
I want to know.
It was Cam Latu, who
all right, go to it. Talk about it.
Had a not good game.
Talk about it.
He got called for the penalty. I believe it was on a 38-yard return, or at least Jameson got the ball to the 38-yard line, a holding that set the Niners back, I believe, all the way back to their own 10-yard line, maybe even 5-yard line. He got called for a illegal formation where he shaded the receiver on the very next drive, or on the same drive. He literally got called for that holding, and then he got called for an illegal formation. His one reception went for 9 yards, which, hey, cool. That's great. You had a reception. He caught the ball. It was a throw behind him a little bit. But the bad news is after you catch it, you got to hold on to the football. And he fumbles it. Raiders pick it up. Raiders score on the very next offensive play. Score doesn't matter, but that's something that stands out. And listen, here's my thing. I look past the drops in practice because we haven't seen him in a game. Maybe the drops just happen in practice. Who knows? He has his one catch. Now we're talking about drops in practice, and now we're in game situation. 2 penalties and a turnover. Cam Latu might break the record for fastest in Shanahan's doghouse. That's my one overreaction. I'm allowing it because I'm going to be calm the rest of the way. This is my one overreaction. It's the drops, it's the penalties, and now it's the turnovers. One game, I might be out.
I don't think that people. All right, I don't think people are overreacting. But I do want to point something else out that I felt was a much bigger red flag than the fumble.
Yes.
This is clearly in his head. Mm-hmm. And during warm-ups, when Trey Lance was warming up, he throws the ball to Willie Snead, he catches it. He throws the ball to Chris Conley, he catches it. Cameron Latu's running by himself against air. Lance puts it right where it needs to be. Latu dropped it. It's clearly in his mind now at this point. The third round has not been kind to the San Francisco 49ers in a long time. Latu was somebody that I thought would be drafted later. But the 49ers identified him early on and took him. So you know what? Me, the amateur GM, amateur whatever, couch whatever, I don't know better than the team. I said I'm going to trust him on this. Right now, this isn't looking good. But I do want to point back to something that you said earlier about Jennings, about his drops, about like there's a lot of players on his team. Debo drops the ball, Kittle drops the ball. They make plays to supersede that, right? Like you'll live with a drop when George Kittle catches a pass and takes it 60 yards for a tud, or when Debo Samuel catches a screen pass and he runs through everybody and runs over Jalen Ramsey. Sorry, Jim Everett, I had to do it. You were right there. Runs over Jalen Ramsey to score a touchdown. The problem is the coaching staff has a dilemma now. Yeah. You've invested a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick. I'm sorry, wherever he was drafted. I'm sorry. And what do you do? How do you coach this? How do you instill confidence in this young man? And how do you get him back on track? It's not that he's not talented at football. He wouldn't have played at Alabama if he wasn't talented at football. But how do you explain this now to him, and how do you get him rolling without him, circling down the drain pipe? This is where coaching comes in. This is where good coaching comes in. Do you put your arm around the young man, or do you give him tough love? Tough love works for certain people. Works for Brandon Ayuk. Doesn't work for Dante Pettis. Doesn't work for Matt Breida. Doesn't work for certain people. But when you're looking at a 53-man roster, you may be letting Latu stay on this roster to get rid of a Chris Conley.
Yep.
Another cornerback, right? Maybe you get to a point where you're just like, you know what? We're going to cut Jameson as well too. We can't, like, the 53-man roster is so tough to get down to, and draft capital does have a little bit to do with it. But at what point can you coach something like this out of him? And I think that's going to be the real part. Jim, I love you, buddy. Stop slandering my goddamn coach, man. I really like Sean McVay, man. I love the Playmakers podcast, but Jim, you leave Coach Kyle out of this, pal.
Yeah, and Latu was actually a 3rd round pick, Jason. I know
there you go, 3rd round pick.
Thank you, Gammon. Miles May said, "Does anyone think we'll miss Jimmy Ward more than most thought?" I do. Answer some chat. I think we do a pretty good job answering chat and comments and all that. We'll get to that question once we get to the cornerbacks. We'll have that discussion, because I thought the slot corners played decently in the run. I'm gonna say the run they played well. The pass we'll talk about.
Oh, Isaiah Oliver, we got some
Isaiah
problems,
Oliver.
buddy.
Yeah, Isaiah. Outside of Isaiah Oliver, I thought
Isaiah Oliver. We got some things to talk about. We got some things to talk about.
The offensive line. I know we've touched on it a little bit. Let's just look at it individually. It was really the 2 names that stood out. Jason Poe, he allowed a big pressure, I believe. I don't remember if that resulted in a sack. But Nick Zackel at the right guard, boy, oh boy, he allowed the first 2 sacks. He allowed a pressure. I think by my count, he had 2 sacks and 2 pressures. Not good. Not very good on the offensive line. But as Jason said, they're backups for a reason. This isn't the starting offensive line. Ideally, we don't see Nick Zackel much often in the regular season.
But hold on, don't talk about the Rams like that. Like that's okay, man. Like you guys
Daniel.
you guys are rebuilding. Like it's
Damn,
okay, man.
Daniel.
It's okay, Daniel. You guys are rebuilding. You're moving in the right direction. Stenson Bennett is a 42-year-old rookie. Like you guys are doing the right thing. Like, honestly. And if you want to talk about zero depth, you don't have zero starters. Like I don't whatever. Keep going, Andrew. And this is how you know football season's back.
You want to go offensive line real quick, Jason? I know you got your big spiel out.
You want me to do offensive line? You want me to do offensive line? I could probably do it in like one really like good like sound.
Got you.
Okay, ready?
There you go.
We're done?
Nice and simple. Yeah, we're good. Offensive line, not great. But hey, Trent Williams wasn't out there. Totally forgetting all the offensive linemen. Aaron Banks wasn't out there. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes there. Hopefully depth doesn't become an issue in the regular season. Defensive line. One sack. It was a Cleveland Farrell sack. Other than that,
Jordan Willis revenge game.
Jordan Willis revenge game. We probably could have done that. It's preseason. We got to remember Hoop's revenge game.
Who's revenge game?
35 carries for the Raiders, 120 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Not much out of the defensive line. Javon Kinlaw, I didn't really notice him much. I think he had one.
He was getting blasted on blocks.
So one game.
I know, but
hey, let's put it in context. Stayed healthy. That's good. Let's make that positive.
Well, we don't have any injuries, right? So let's point out
no injuries. Stuff. No injuries too.
But no, he was having a tough time. It looked like that Eagles game again. He was having a tough time. Every time I saw Kinlaw, I saw him yards away from the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I don't know. I will say this. Oh, well, you know what? Keep going through the positions. I want to get to Kerry Hyder and Ambry Thomas snuffed out that 4th down. I thought that was really great. Let's shout out to Kerry Hyder. So
yeah, Kerry Hyder, good play there. Linebackers, Jalen Graham. The way I judge my linebackers, and I've told you this, it's kind of the Patrick Willis test, and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw both have a little bit of this, is how often do I see you around the ball at the end of play? How often do 100%. I see your number? Yep. Jalen Graham was there. 50 was there a lot. 6 tackles, 5 solo tackles. He did have one very Dre Greenlaw play where I believe the Raiders tight end, forget the name, he gave himself up, didn't get up on the play, and Graham hit him a little late. Don't want to see that, but hey, one play. But Jalen Graham looked pretty good.
Yeah, 100%. And that's great because that's for the future as well too. Again, guys, like if we seem chill, it's because one, me and Andrew are operating on nothing but vibes, and it's still the summer for a little bit. I mean, look at his hair, look at my hair, like we're vibing. But the 49ers didn't have anything to gain today about starters.
No.
Your starters are set. Everybody's set, right? Start week 1 tomorrow, and none of these guys will be playing. Depth is very valuable, of course, right? Next man up. Injuries are a part of the game. But if I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of like glass half full, is the guys that you saw playing today are either going to be people that are going to be down the line, possible contributors this season somewhere, whether it be by taking someone's spot or by injury, or just guys who aren't going to be playing football. And that's I think what I was trying to convey the most when I was talking about this game and the players that were on the field. Many of these players are going to be looking for jobs in the NFL or plain out just looking for jobs. And that's the reason why there are guys who completely blow through the preseason and they look incredible, but when the lights really turn on, they never get it done. And then there's guys who kind of just lay in the weeds, and then when it really pops on and things get implemented and you've got a lot of time with the team, things change. So it's hard to be upset, worried about anything like this when your team essentially of the 22 people have 3 possible question marks. 3. Yeah. And I'm including linebacker 3. And that question marks because you don't know what they can do. Question marks because you just haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. You've got 19 other guys on both sides of the ball that you literally know exactly what you're getting from. And I think that there's something that's important to be said about that, because there's a lot of people that they're starting all of their people in preseason week 1, and they're starting all their people in preseason week 2 because they're trying to figure out what their starting rotation is. The 49ers don't have that problem. They don't. It's fine, guys. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're there. Gammon, shout out.
Very generous. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you very much for this donation. Question 1. You got a few questions here. Question 1, perception versus context. Purdy threw 4 interceptions because he has no right side and no line. Question 2, what is your favorite app?
Want to start with the first one?
Yeah, you want to go first?
Yeah, perception versus context. I think, again, Gammon, like the eye test is very important. I need to see how you got to this interception. Was it like a panic throw? Like Anthony Richardson threw an interception against the Bills where I just said, "Oh no, youngster! Like you have to get rid of that football. That's poor process." But then you add the context of the fact that that was like first NFL throw, even if it's in the preseason, right? I think, again, it's so much about it. The whole 4 interceptions thing has to do a lot with what you saw on the play.
Yeah.
Brandon Allen threw an interception. If you didn't watch the game, you'd say, "Oh God, he sucks." Well, he banged that thing right on 10 and he dropped it. Like there's nothing that you can do about that. So it's always going to be context. Perception always weighs more than fact. Always, 100%. And especially with other fan bases. All right, I might as well just say it. I love Jim Everett, though. He's the man. And I love Marketing Pro and all the Rams fans that we have to hop in here. But if you found out that Stetson Bennett threw 4 interceptions in a preseason game but didn't watch the game, what would we do? We'd run to Twitter and we'd just be like, ha, 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 he's old. He threw interceptions. But we wouldn't go back and watch the game to see how that actually happened, whether that's a tip pass at the line or whether that's a ball that the receiver goes right through their hands. Like those type of things matter more than anything for me. So it's always going to be context over perception. But let's not get it twisted that perception always outweighs reality every single time. It will always outweigh reality, especially when you want that team to be bad. Like if I find out Dak Prescott threw 4 picks in a game, I'm not going to go back and watch and be like, "Oh, well, Dak kind of missed out." I'm going to be like, "Dak sucks." I'm going to be like, "Dak sucks. Dak sucks." I'm like, "Ha, ha, ha. Cowboys are trash." So I like, I'm not running from my bias. But I also do want to give you the context of the perception versus context portion.
Perfect. Perfectly said. Question 2, what is your favorite app space talk ball? Probably youtube.com or twitter.com.
I like Spaces, man. I do.
Spaces. We need to bring back Spaces. We say it all the time, but we need to bring it back.
No. We need to bring back, and Dawson's here.
Clubhouse.
We need to bring back Clubhouse. Clubhouse was up. Clubhouse was way up. When we traded to 3, everybody got to get their takes off. It was only a select few that were allowed, so not every Tom, Dick, and Harry could give some terrible take. Shout out to Dawson here, man. I know he used to be in those clubhouses. Those clubhouses used to go real late night on the East Coast as well, too. So, question 3. Have you ever thought about having a baseball social media only space? I'll pass this to Andrew Pasquini because his team won a game today. My team was winning 7-1 today, and they lost, 8-7 in the 9th inning against the Miami Marlins.
I like baseball. Jason and I kind of lean into it when we talk after dark. Every so often we'll get to baseball. But yeah, why not? I like talking ball, good baseball talk. Jason, cornerbacks. Not maybe an overreaction, but a concern because there was one presumed starter out there today. That was Isaiah Oliver. The word Tim Ryan used, inside leverage, seemed like he was giving things to the outside a lot. That touchdown was his fault early on. I believe it was the first touchdown of the game, or maybe it was the second touchdown by the Raiders. Forget exactly which one. But I mean, I thought the slot corners played well in the run. I feel like each slot corner made a pretty nice tackle. Samuel Womack had one. Ambry Thomas had one as well. Jameson as well had one. He had a pretty good tackle on a play at the flats. But yeah, you want to talk about Isaiah Oliver because that's you seemed you wanted to mention him.
It's concerning.
Yeah.
But I do want to remind people that the reason Isaiah Oliver was so highly coveted by this front office was his run defense, which you guys can look it up. He was a dog in that as well too. I do not want to also lose the context of everyone else around him, right? He may not be out there having to cover for so long on certain spots when the real defensive line is getting pressure, when Nick Bosa is actually sacking the quarterback and Javon Hargrave is there. I don't want to lose that, but it is a bit concerning for him to be a guy who is a veteran, someone that they really love, for him to be so far away from his intended receiver. I think that's a little concerning, but I also don't want to overreact because of all those outside factors. Like pass rush has a lot to do with it. There's the great debate about secondary play and pass rush. What's more important? Well, at times the secondary can cause a sack. At times a sack can save the secondary. So I think they go hand in hand. I think it's a little bit of give and take when it comes to both. So I don't want to necessarily overreact to that, but I will say that I am concerned with what I saw. Now, can I give praise to somebody who I have not been able to give praise to much at all, if at all?
Absolutely.
Ambry Thomas played well today. Ambry Thomas played very well today. Very well. He looked like a kid he looked like the opposite of what had been described of him in practices and from what I've seen from him when I was at practices. It's a little bit of give and take. Who is he facing? Was it the first team? Okay. But when you're worried about depth and you're talking about cornerback 3, and it looks like Darrell Luter isn't going to make, this roster at this point, they'll probably just like hide him on PUP all year and try to use him next year. When you're looking at that, Ambry Thomas was a guy that sealed the 49ers playoff, appearance in week 17 against the Rams. And then you kind of saw it rear its ugly head again in the NFC Championship game against the Rams, where he was playing too far off and everybody was able to just throw the ball however they wanted to on them. That's for the Rams fans in here. You got it. We all remember. You got it. But I do think that that's encouraging because it's a little bit like Thomas is picking himself up off the mat because he's kind of been buried. He's been buried. I think a lot of people are just expecting him to be cut because he's another third rounder. But you like to see that kind of fight, right? Like no matter what happens, whether he makes his roster or not, that fight and everything looks good, man. Like he looked good today. Like that is something that I was really impressed by. And trust me, you guys know that it's not that I'm against the kid. I just got to call it like I see it. If I think you're overmatched, I think you're overmatched. At times he looked overmatched, and then it happened again. And then when you look at what happened last season, they literally went to every single available cornerback besides him whenever there was an opening outside, which kind of tells you how they feel about him. But Ambry's fighting back, and I think that is incredible, man. I really do. So we got another donation.
We'll wrap up cornerbacks real quick. I did want to shout out J.R. Brown. He had one play, actually, where he made a nice little tackle at the 1 yard line, prevented a touchdown. Shout out there. There's your other third-round pick. We talked about two and Moody already. Basketball K9er, thanks for the donation. It felt to me Cal's play calling was sus. Or questionable. Sus, questionable. Same word as somebody else said sus. Why were we throwing so much to start when you call a couple runs and screens, get Trey comfy?
Good call. No, I think that's very valid.
I think part of it is too, it's the preseason, and one of the big question marks is sometimes Trey Lance, not his necessarily his throwing ability, but people complained a lot last year about the way he was handled running the ball, and Shanahan maybe just wants to see him more as a passer in the preseason, dare I say. So hey man, get him as many reps, and maybe that's part of why he's QB2 or in this battle with Darnold, is because Shanahan wants to see how he runs the offense as a passer. So, Jason, you look very intrigued right now.
Andrew, what did I tell you earlier today? Mm-hmm. When people were like, is Kyle's play calling going to be conducive to success for Trey? He knows what Trey can run.
Yeah.
He knows what Trey can do. Didn't I tell you earlier, it's time to work on the things that you have questions on?
Yeah.
Now, was it conducive to success because of the offensive line that was in front of him? That's valid. But I had a feeling that Kyle Shanahan was going to make him work on things that he wants him to be better at in an actual game situation, which is operating from the pocket, passing the football, not bailing on pockets. And unfortunately, early on, it didn't work. Now, if you want to talk about getting him comfy, the drive that they scored a touchdown on, they started to move the pocket. They started to, use the misdirection where you fake play action to one way, you leak a receiver out behind, and you get an easy completion, almost like a shooter who hasn't been able to make a shot. Seeing a free throw or a layup go through the basket gives you a little bit more confidence. But I literally highlighted this earlier. I felt that Kyle was going to make him work on things that he felt he needed to improve on in a game situation. And that's what that looked like early on. Now, is it smart? Because he possibly could have gotten hurt because of the way the offensive line was blocking. That's 100% valid. That is 100% valid. Again, I love Coach, but he's not above me asking questions. I mean, if I ask him the question in the press conference, he's going to be like, just shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, he would say something like that. Like, that's fine, but I'm not above questioning certain things. If he gives me an answer that is to my liking, then I would just say, now I know a little bit more, but not above the questions. That's why when people asked earlier, Andrew, well, are they just going to make things easy for Trey? I felt like he probably wouldn't, because he wants him to work on certain things in game situations against live competition, against guys who are fighting for their lives. And I think you saw that a little bit today.
Yeah, perfectly said. Jason, I think that's all the positions. Have we gotten through it? Oh, I guess we'll back in the special teams conversation because we talked Jake Moody at the top. Let's talk return game.
Well,
and Cam, yes, 111 passer rating, but
results.
the passer rating looks significantly different if Raiders make 2 catches.
Can we use this? Process results. Your result is 111 passer rating. If one of those Raiders catches that bad pass to Conley, it goes from 111 to 32.6.
Yeah.
Huge discrepancy. Because the ball was completed to a 49er. It jumped 80 points. Anyone who watched this game knows that 111 passer rating is not indicative of what you saw on the field for various reasons. This game is a masterclass on why process always beats results. Always. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but I've got to see it. 111 passer rating looks good in the stat sheet. If I didn't watch the game, I'd be like, holy shit, man, this kid needs to play. But I watched the game, and that is no way indicative of how he played today. None.
Yeah, I'm trying to punch it into the calculator. You said 32, which is that if both interceptions were caught, or if that's just
the one interception? It jumped from 32 to 108 or something like that. With the interception, with the fake interception.
So it's 111 passer rating in this game. If we flip that touchdown for an interception, Jason, you said 32, which I believe that sounds correct. Passer rating is very any scale, Jason, that ends on 153.1, probably not a good scale. Yeah. But that, Jason, it is 59 with the sorry. Calculating live 54 with the interception, no touchdown. So there you go. Not good. And then if you throw in the second interception, we're just playing that 42. So it's not good. So don't just throw the 111 out. Gavin, thank you again. $5 donation. Fans have a Chicken Little response to a practice in our preseason game. What has been the biggest overreaction from fans this off season?
Want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
That Brock Purdy's going to immediately step in and be the guy that he was immediately that you saw at the end of last season. I think that's the biggest overreaction. I think that Brock Purdy's going to lose a game this season. Yeah. Okay, guys. Brock Purdy's going to lose a game this season. Brock Purdy's going to have a game where he doesn't look like he's an all-pro. The biggest overreaction is just get Purdy to week 1 and everything will just go right back to where it was, where they were scoring 35 points a game and they were just rolling over everybody. I think that's the biggest overreaction. I think with the way the NFL is, with the level of parity, I think that's foolish. And I think that you can still say that you're confident in Brock Purdy without saying something to that degree, because what Brock Purdy did was something that no 7th-round rookie, no rookie really has ever done. So I'm going to bet on the side of history. And it doesn't mean that Brock Purdy's bad. Doesn't mean that Brock Purdy's regressing. It just means the NFL is a tough league. And there are guys in that league that will continue to make things hard for Brock Purdy. And that's the best way I can put it.
All right. Jason Aponte, we have gotten to that time. First time in a long time.
3 stars?
Focus. 3 stars of the game. Jason, I'll start. I'm going to go my 3rd star.
Go.
Troy Fumagalli.
Nice.
I usually like to use my third star on a guy who doesn't get much recognition. We've talked a lot about tight ends today, especially Braden Willis and Cameron Latu. Fumagalli, 2 receptions, 30 yards, 22 reception long. He also had a pretty nice block on a run play. So I don't know, maybe a sneaky entry into a 53-man roster because, hey, George Kittle feels like really the only guaranteed tight end to make this roster right now. I know there's Dwelley and Warner as well, but those positions are up in the air with 2 tight ends being drafted. So Fumagalli might be making a case for himself.
Third star for me is going to be Deshaun Jameson. Just because I love what I saw from the return game. There's too much sample size of him as a returner in college for you to overlook this. Ray, no matter how you felt, was valuable. And that's not something that's easy for this team to get away from, because if Deebo Samuel misses a game, Ray can step in for 1 or 2 plays and almost act like almost act like Deebo. But I like Deshaun Jameson. Unfortunately, he had a penalty on almost every single kick return, and that's a little bit more. That's way more concerning, I think, than like dropped interceptions or interceptions. Is like the penalties. That's sloppy. That's just sloppy.
Yeah. I'm going to go 2-star Deshaun Jameson
Nice.
for all the exact reasons. He looked really good. Big difference between him and Ronnie Bell, just in this small sample size. Ronnie Bell really seemed like he was trying to reverse the field a lot. It didn't work for him very much. He had one decent. His opening return was decent. And then the punt return, he just refused to call fair catches. But Raphael, thank you. Jumping in late. Zane Gonzalez looking solid now.
But I told you, Moody needs to sit behind 10 so he can get a year under it.
But Jameson really quick in his decision making, quick feet, looking really good in the returns. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up in the box. So another no box score conversation. Don't look at the box score, because I believe if the stats, 2 kick returns for 37 yards, but 2 were called back. Or 1 was called back on a penalty, and then another punt was called back on a penalty. So I'm going to go to Deshaun Jameson, my number 2 star.
My number 2 star is Ambry Thomas, man. Look, again, I really talked about it earlier on. There's something to be said about a guy who has kind of been buried by fans, pundits, analysts, media, and being able to get off the ground. And it's like, listen, we talked about Trey Lance earlier on. Whether you agree it's fair or not, his opportunities are whenever he steps on the field. And you have to treat every single time that you're on the field as your opportunity. So Trey Lance has only, unfortunately, the preseason. Ambry Thomas realizes this, and he played very well. He played fast. He had 1 penalty that was a little bit egregious. Okay, fine. But I like the way you covered. I like the way you hit. You and Kerry Hyder sniffed out a 4th down run. That's very important for a cornerback, not a safety and not a nickel corner. An outside cornerback to get in there, get your nose dirty, and get that 4th down. I will tell you this, Ambry Thomas, I've not been the biggest supporter of yours. I've only tried to use what I've seen about you, but I will say this. I'm very impressed with the way that you got off the mat and fought back no matter what. You're fighting back. You're not rolling over and dying, and I think that's very important. Ambry Thomas, number 2 star.
Shout out to Ambry Thomas. Left off my list. That's okay. That's why we have 2 lists here. My number 1 star, just because of the sack, I'm going to go Clelin Ferrell.
Nice.
Just getting the revenge game sack. The Niners, really the edge, too, is the big question. And for him to pick up that sack, especially in a game where Drake Jackson isn't playing, really helps. So it's a good boost. I'm going to go with the physical. I know we just said context over stats, Jason. I'm going to go with the 1 stat I saw. He looked really good. He had the 1 sack, and that's all it takes is seeing this a projected starter get a sack in a preseason game. I'm entertained. I felt good just seeing a sack. I felt football's back. So I'm gonna go Clelin Ferrell for my number 1 star.
Okay, my number 1 star, Ronnie Bell. It just seemed to be the guy who, dare I say, it's not quantifiable with any stat. It's not quantifiable with any film. And Taco did get a snap. He had a really good play too, where he kept somebody in the pocket. Dare I say, Ronnie Bell, his dog percentage is a little bit off the charts. That number 10 is fire as a wide receiver. And by the way, for everybody that's like, oh, Ronnie Bell's wearing 10, they're both wearing 10, Zane Gonzalez and Ronnie Bell, because it's really stupid that you have a second kicker hanging around, and I'm just having a lot of fun. Like, there's a rookie 10, and then there's a 10 that's kicking footballs.
Jake Moody and Brandon Allen both wearing 4.
Wearing 4, right? So y'all don't have nothing to say about that, right? But Ronnie Bell, man, it looks like a guy who's a Shanahan receiver. It looks like his dog percentage is off the chart. His him percentage is going up little by little the more and more I watch him. But it's hard for me to give praise to a Purdue player. Aiden O'Connell and Ronnie Bell look like the two best players on the field because I'm an Indiana Hoosier. But Ronnie Bell, number one star, man. I think if you're not going to see it much this year, and maybe you will now that Ray McCloud's not around, get used to the name. You are going to see him for years to come. Ronnie Bell is my number one star.
Perfect. Hey, Jason Aponte, we're back. We're back. Man. We're talking football, baby. We talked a real game. We just talked a real game for an hour.
Well,
how do you like that?
Shout out to all you guys, man.
Yeah.
Again, we had like 130, whatever. We've got like 100 something. Again, like you guys are back, man. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Make sure you follow the Sprint Right Option podcast wherever you get your audio podcast. Appreciate you guys. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without any of you, and the passion from this fan base, no matter how much we get frustrated with the discourse on any part of this team. None of this is possible without the passion that you guys give. And we really appreciate the fact that you guys tune in. You know when we're going live. You ask when we're going live. All that stuff matters, man. And we're back, man. We are back. We're locked in, man. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that we're back. I love the fact that, you know, we have regular faces in here. Shout out to Dawson. Man, shout out to Jets Gang. He's in here a lot. JM617. Shout out to Gammon. Shout out to everybody with the donations. Everybody, Emiliano. Like everybody that's always in here. Regardless, one way or another, whether you agree, whether you disagree, we are so happy to have you here, a part of the conversation, and you guys really, really make it like easy for us to do this.
Yeah, Ronnie Bell went to Michigan, Jason.
He did go to Michigan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you said Purdue, but that's
I thought he said Purdue. Yeah, that's my fault. Okay, I'm cool.
You're good. You're good. We got it.
I'm a Big Ten Indiana Hoosier guy, but it's only college basketball. But Purdue, anything Purdue, I've got problems.
Hey, hashtag free Jim Harbaugh. He's free now. No suspension. We love it. But yeah, no, Jason, to your point, absolutely to your point. None of this is possible with you. And to see so many familiar faces here on day one, dare I say the official day one of the 49ers 2023 season. Happy to see all the comments. Happy to see everybody back. I'm very excited to do this. We'll probably be back. When do the Niners play? Is it Saturday this week?
It's Saturday.
Saturday?
We'll do our Friday. We'll do our Friday preview.
We got our Friday preview. Two episodes, probably not next week. Next Saturday is my mom's birthday, so we'll do the preview on Friday, and then we'll see post game. We'll see. Maybe it'll depends what the birthday plan is. So
I might have to get some other people to fill in. Maybe we'll have a round table of people. Maybe maybe I'll call Rich Madrid so he can get all mad at me about not watching the tape. Maybe I'll call Jordan because he's I don't know if Jordan can do it right now because he's NBC, right? Like he's just like. He's too far out of our range now. Brad's too big time to do it, man. I don't know, man. Like it's gonna be hard to find people to replace Andrew Pasquini, man.
Yeah, well, but it's one game. I'll be back every podcast after that, or if we need to, we can just go Monday, whatever. Jason, it was fun. Today was fun.
100%.
I got an article to write, some winners, some losers.
Me too.
Keep an eye out on that for NinersNation.com. I don't know how many winners and losers I'm gonna have. Probably like 6 or 7, maybe 8. We'll see. But yeah, man, listen. 34-7, this final score. Throw it out. Forget it. I told you to hit the over, though. So just throwing that one out.
And I said Niners money line. So
Raiders almost hit the over by themselves. But that's okay. That's okay. Any final thoughts before we go home, Jason Aponte?
No, man. Good to see you. Good to be back. Good to hang with you guys again, man. Love the discourse. Whether you agree or you disagree, man. Let's get it, man. We're back.
Hey, beautiful. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go fucking Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.